The old neon sign above the diner flickered like it was gasping for air, casting a soft red glow over the cracked parking lot. It was the kind of place truckers stopped out of desperation, not curiosity. Inside, the scent of stale coffee and high. Fried onions clung to everything. Locals called it the pit, half joking, half honest. No one came for the food. They came because there were no questions asked. Ava Morgan fit in too well. She worked the graveyard, shift midnight to 8 a.m., where the regulars were ghosts and the conversations shallow. Her uniform was always clean but oversized. Her face, shadowed under a worn navy baseball cap. No name tag. No smiles. Just refills and change slid across the counter. She never sat, never chatted. Her movements were fluid, automatic. Like muscle memory ran deeper than thought. At first, no one paid much attention to her. A new face at the pit was just a temporary mystery. People came and went. Most didn't even know where Seabrook was on the map. Ava was just another drifter. Maybe an ex-addict trying to get clean. Maybe a runaway. Maybe hiding. That's what they all assumed. No one imagined the truth. One night, in early spring, a trio of off-duty Navy SEALs walked in after midnight. Their laughter was loud, all testosterone and tension from weeks of training. They carried themselves like kings, tossing their tactical packs in a corner and sliding into the booths like they owned the place. The leader, a burly sergeant with a crew cut and booming voice, shouted across the diner for more coffee. Before he even looked at a menu, Ava brought their drinks without a word. Her eyes flicked over their uniforms, badges, and patches. Nothing she hadn't seen before except for one name stitched across the leader's chest. Torres. He grinned up at her. You're new. She nodded once and turned away. She's got that haunted look, one of the SEALs muttered. Like one of those black site spooks they never talk about. Torres laughed. Spooks don't sling hash in diners, man. She's probably just tired of running from her ex or the IRS. They laughed louder, but Ava didn't react. She kept wiping down the counter, eyes low, ears open. Torres kept going. Hey, remember that op in Helmand? The one where half the intel was bogus? Some damn ghost unit fed us the wrong coordinates. One of the younger guys scoffed. Ghost Viper? That's just a myth. My CO said it never existed. That's bull, Torres snapped. They were real. Operatives so far off the books. They didn't even have records. Behind the counter, Ava paused for just a breath. Barely noticeable. But Torres noticed. He leaned forward, voice cocky. You ever hear of Operation Crescent Line? He asked Ava, smirking. Supposedly, a bunch of phantom soldiers, no insignia, no tags, led the strike. Ghost Viper, they called the lead. But that was years ago. She's probably dead. Ava finally turned. Her voice was calm, almost quiet. It wasn't Crescent Line, she said without looking at them. It was Crescent Lock, and it wasn't Helmand. It was Nuristan. Wrong terrain, wrong team, wrong timeline, silence. Cold. And sudden. Torres blinked. What did you say? Ava said nothing more. She refilled a mug and walked away like she hadn't spoken at all. Torres stared after her. The smirk wiped clean from his face. How the hell would she know that? No one answered. The next hour passed in near silence. The SEALs muttered too. Each other, now studying Ava like she was something else entirely. A puzzle. A problem. One of them tried to casually snap a photo of her on his phone. She caught it out of the corner of her eye and turned just slightly, and the screen suddenly glitched. His phone restarted. He stared at it like it had betrayed him. By dawn, they were gone. Ava stood in the break room after her shift, peeling off her apron with slow, precise hands. She pulled off the cap and ran her fingers through dark, shoulder-length hair. There were tiny scars above her right temple, like thin lightning bolts etched into her skin. She stared at herself in the small, cracked mirror on the wall. Her eyes were ice blue, too sharp, too clear for someone trying to disappear. She reached into the inner pocket of her jacket and unfolded a small, worn photograph. A team of 8. Desert fatigues, dust in the air. Smiles like ghosts brave, and broken all at once. All their faces were blurred with black ink. All but one. Hers. She touched the corner of the photo, brushing over a faint tattoo visible on her wrist in the image. A serpent coiled tightly around an anchor, fangs exposed. A mark no civilian would understand. No soldier would forget. She folded the photo again and slipped it back inside her jacket. Outside, the sun was rising slowly over the horizon, casting long shadows over Seabrook's empty streets. Birds chirped, unaware. The world looked peaceful. But Ava knew better. Ghosts don't stay buried forever. Asterisk. By the time Ava reached her trailer, the coastal fog had rolled in thick and low, swallowing the roads and softening the world into silence. She lived in the last unit of a rusted-out trailer park tucked behind a gas station off Route 19. Nobody came out there unless they were broke or hiding. Ava qualified as both. Inside, her trailer was Spartan, no decorations, no framed photos. Just a mattress on the floor, a locked metal trunk, and a single lamp that gave off a low, yellow glow. She tossed her jacket onto a plastic chair, locked the door behind her, and pulled the blackout curtains closed. With a sigh, she dropped to the floor in front of the trunk and unlocked it with a small silver key she kept on a chain around her neck. Inside were pieces of a life long forgotten, or at least one the world had forgotten. She pulled out a faded manila envelope and slid the contents onto the floor. Photographs, newspaper clippings, a shredded badge, a small patch bearing the emblem of a coiled serpent, same as her tattoo, and beneath it all, a flash drive. Ava stared at the items for a long time before plugging the drive into the old laptop she kept offline at all times. The screen flickered, then came to life with encrypted files. She bypassed the protocols like second nature, fingers moving fast. Mechanically. There were names on the screen, 8 of them. Her old team. Ghost Viper Unit. Each name was followed by a status. Deceased, Mia. Presumed carrier. And then finally Morgan, Ava, unknown. She leaned back against the wall, eyes half closed. The Ghost Vipers weren't officially acknowledged. They had operated outside of standard command structures, reporting directly to a Black Ops handler known only as Spectre. Ava had been the team's lead, brilliant in tactics, fluent in 6 languages, trained in both field execution and psychological warfare. But 5 years ago, during Operation Midnight Spear, everything had gone sideways. Spectre pulled the plug mid-mission, vanishing along with crucial intel. The team was left exposed, ambushed. Ava barely escaped with her life. Everyone else, DIDN, single quotes T. Dachi, went dark after that. No trace, no contact. Just shadows. Until now. Something was stirring. The fact that Torres, some random SEAL, was tossing around classified op names in casual diner talk meant someone had let those details loose. Someone high up. And that meant only one thing. The cover-up was unraveling. She tapped into a hidden subfolder on the drive. A string of dates and locations populated the screen. She ran her finger down them slowly. Each one corresponded with the death of a former Ghost Viper member. Some were ruled accidents. One was said to be a suicide. Another had disappeared while hiking in the Alps. Ava knew better. None of them were random. She clicked open the last file, a surveillance image captured just weeks ago. It showed a figure in military fatigues, standing near a black SUV outside. Langley. The face was grainy, half-shadowed. But Ava knew those eyes. Spectre. She slammed the laptop shut, breathing hard. The man who had left them to die, who vanished without a trace, was alive. And worse, he was hunting them. Cleaning up loose ends. Which meant he had no idea she was still alive. That was her only advantage. For now, a knock on the trailer door made her freeze. Her hand moved instinctively to the Glock hidden beneath her bed frame. Silent. Poised. Another knock. Slower this time. More deliberate. She moved to the door, Glock in hand, and pressed her back against the wall. Who is it? Landlord, came a tired voice. Rent's due. She relaxed slightly and opened the door, gun now tucked behind her back. The landlord, an old man with wispy white hair and nicotine-stained fingers, stood there holding a wad of envelopes. Mail, he muttered. And your hot water's still busted, I know. Plumber's late again. Ava nodded. Thanks. She closed the door behind him. Heart still pounding. Among the mail was a plain white envelope with no stamp. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 2 typed lines. They know. You're next. Get out. She didn't recognize the font. No fingerprints, no trace. Whoever sent it wanted to help, but wasn't taking risks. And they knew exactly who she was. She took the paper, lit it over the gas burner, and watched it curl into black ash in her sink. Everything had changed. She wouldn't run this time? Back at the diner that night, Torres returned alone. He sat at the far booth, staring at her like he'd spent the whole day thinking about what she'd said. He didn't touch the coffee she poured him. Didn't speak. Finally, he slid a piece of paper across the table. It was a copy of the mission. File from Crescent Lock, redacted and sealed. You were there, he said quietly. My uncle was too. He said someone saved their entire squad that night, but command buried the truth. That person had a serpent tattoo. He paused. I saw yours. I know what it means. Ava's expression didn't change. You shouldn't be digging around. Too late for that, he said. You were more than just there. You were in charge. They called you Viper. She met his gaze, cool and unflinching. You talk too much, Torres. He leaned back in the booth. And you're not hiding very well for someone they're trying to erase. Ava's jaw tightened. I'm not hiding. He studied her for a moment. Then what are you doing? Her voice was low, steady, waiting. The storm rolled in slow and heavy, like something alive. Thunder cracked faintly over the ocean horizon, sending faint tremors through the glass panes of the diner. The pit was nearly empty that night, just a few fishermen nursing late night. Coffee and a tired old couple sharing silence. Ava stood behind the counter, slicing lemons with the same precision she once used to clean firearms. She hadn't spoken much since her conversation with Torres the night before. He hadn't returned. She hadn't expected him to. Most people got scared once they scratched the surface, but something in the air felt wrong tonight. The hairs on. Her neck had risen hours ago and hadn't settled. Her instincts, dormant for years, were awake again, tense, watching. The bell above the door jingled. 3 men walked in clean-cut, sharp, not talking. The kind of quiet that comes from training. Not shyness. They didn't look around much. They already knew the layout. Their boots barely made a sound on the tile. Ava didn't flinch, but she clocked them immediately. SEALs. Not just SEALs-command-level. Then she saw him. Commander James Harrow entered behind them. Tall, lean, graying at the temples, eyes like steel and movement like a predator. His uniform was civilian, but everything about him screamed military. Discipline hung off him like a second skin. The last time she'd seen him, he was bleeding out in a desert compound, screaming into a broken radio, while she dragged his unconscious teammate over a wall of burning wreckage. She remembered the smell of diesel and blood, the roar of choppers overhead, and Harrow's voice yelling her name before she disappeared into the dark. She never thought she'd see him again. He didn't recognize her, not immediately. He slid into a booth, his men flanking him. Their orders were clear: perimeter check, low profile, watch everyone. One of them nodded subtly toward Ava behind the counter. Harrow glanced up. For a moment, nothing. Then he blinked. Ava had turned to pour a refill of coffee for the old couple. As she reached forward, her sleeve shifted, revealing the unmistakable ink along her wrist. A serpent coiled around an anchor, black, bold, and deliberate. A symbol so classified it never existed on paper. Harrow stared. His face drained of color. The spoon he held clattered against the table. His men tensed. Ava felt it. She turned slowly. Their eyes met. Harrow stood, almost involuntarily. His lips parted. No, she didn't speak. She didn't have to. He stepped toward her like a man approaching a ghost. It's you. Still, she said nothing. He glanced at her wrist again, and into her eyes. Ghost Viper, he whispered. Ava Morgan. You're supposed to be dead. His voice carried across the diner. The fisherman looked up. The old couple paused mid-bite. Ava motioned slightly toward the kitchen with a nod. Harrow followed her. Behind the counter, past the swinging metal doors into the back room. His men stayed put, uneasy but obedient. The door closed behind them with a soft thud. The humming of a faulty refrigerator filled the silence. Ava folded her arms. You talk too loud for someone who knows the rules. Harrow shook his head, disbelief shadowing his face. You vanished. After midnight spear after, we lost 7 men. Intel said you were dead. Intel was wrong. I was there, Ava. I saw the blast. Your whole unit gone. Ava's voice was calm. Not all of us. Harrow stepped closer. You don't understand. After that mission, they erased everything. Your files, your history. Even Spectre disappeared. She stared at him. I know. I've been watching. He narrowed his eyes. You've been watching? Why? Ava pulled a folder from beneath a stack of supply invoices and handed it to him. Inside were photos, redacted memos, surveillance stills. Harrow flipped through them with growing alarm. Every page screamed conspiracy. Assassinations of former operatives, disappearances, black sites, cleansed data trails. These are your team, he said, his voice hoarse. They're killing them. She nodded. 6 dead. 2 missing. Me off the grid. And the connection? Her voice dropped. Spectre's alive. Harrow froze. That's impossible. No, it's not. He's orchestrating this. Removing everyone who could expose what really happened. In Nuristan, Harrow set the file down slowly. His hands trembled. I tried to get someone to listen, he admitted. I filed inquiries. Quiet ones. They got shut down fast. Now I know why. He looked at her again, this time not like a ghost, but a weapon buried in the dirt too long. They won't stop, she said. Not until every name is gone. He studied her, and for a long moment said nothing. Then, what do you want? To do? She didn't blink. Finish what we started. Harrow nodded. Then you'll need access old codes, locations. And I'll need trust, she added. He paused, then slowly reached into his coat. A flash drive. You didn't get this from me. She took it. You never saw me. As they stepped back into the diner, the storm had begun to break, rain tapping against the windows like urgent fingers. Harrow stopped at the door. They thought you were no one, he said quietly, but I never forgot. Ava held his gaze. Then remember this, when the smoke clears, you'll have to choose a side. She turned without another word and disappeared into the kitchen shadows, like she had never returned at all. Outside, the wind howled. The war had found her again. This time she wasn't running. The diner was empty the next night. A rare silence sat over the pit like a thick fog. The usual chatter, even from truckers and insomniacs, had vanished. Something had shifted. Ava felt it the moment she stepped through the back door at 11:53 p.m. The few customers who did come in didn't linger. A man ordered a coffee to go. A woman asked for directions she likely didn't need. Even the jukebox was silent, its power mysteriously cut. The lights flickered occasionally, but no storm followed. Only stillness. Ava's instincts hummed. Moved like always. Quiet, controlled, measured. But her eyes scanned constantly now. She felt the heat of something circling. Whether it was Spectre's operatives or some other silent hand, she couldn't say yet. At 1:27 a.m., someone stepped through the front door. Commander Harrow. This time, he was alone. He wore civilian clothes, black hoodie, jeans, a ball cap pulled low. He looked like a man who'd spent the last 24 hours digging into graves no one wanted opened. He took a seat at the counter. Ava poured his coffee before he asked. "You were right," he said after the first sip. "Spectre's not. Only alive. He's active and very well protected." She leaned on the counter. "How deep?" Harrow handed her a drive. "That deep." She pocketed it without looking. "I pulled internal logs from Project Helix. Remember that?" Ava did. A ghost operation nested under the Department of Defense, meant to track field operatives who went off-grid or became threats. She thought it had been shut down. "It was never shut down," Harrow said. "It was handed off to private command. Buried under shell corporations, Spectre took control. He's using Helix to eliminate us." "Why?" she asked flatly. "Because someone at the top is scared of what Nuristan exposed." Ava narrowed her eyes. "Nuristan was a mistake. They gave us the wrong target, wrong village. Civilians died." Harrow nodded grimly. "And if the truth came, out now years later, during an election year, people would burn for it," Ava finished. "They want all traces erased. You, me, the rest of the Vipers. Every op tied to Spectre's work. Ghosts vanished without record." Ava turned, her back to him, and began filling salt shakers, as if the world wasn't falling apart. "I want in," Harrow said. "All the way." She glanced at him. "You sure?" "They already marked me. I figure if I'm going down, I'd rather do it on my feet." A faint smile ghosted across her lips. She nodded once. "You'll need to move fast," she said. "I've been seeing sign surveillance, strange vehicles, intercepted pings. They're tracking my location. It won't be long before they hit me." Harrow pulled out a folded paper. "These are coordinates to a cold site, one of the last. Ghost Viper caches. I checked it this morning. Still intact." Ava raised an eyebrow. "That was risky." "I needed to know if you were right," he said. "Now I know." She stared at the page for a long moment, then tucked it into her apron. "We'll move. Tomorrow night." Suddenly, the bell above the diner door rang again. A man entered. Tall, lean, clean-shaven, civilian clothes. But his stance was wrong, too rigid. His hand lingered near his coat for half a second too long. His eyes scanned everything, too. Quickly, he nodded once at Ava, then at Harrow. "Coffee?" she asked. "Sure," he replied. "Black." She turned to the pot, but her right hand slipped under the counter quietly, unsnapping the safety on a hidden Glock taped to the underside. The man sat, pulled out a phone, and placed it face down on the counter. Harrow gave her the faintest nod. Ava delivered the coffee and returned behind the counter. 2 Minutes passed. The man didn't drink the coffee. He stood abruptly. "Actually, I'm good." He dropped a $5 bill and walked out. A second later, a car engine revved outside. Ava darted to the window and caught the tail end of a black SUV disappearing into the night. "Recon," Harrow said. "Maybe," Ava replied. "Or maybe Spectre wanted to confirm something." "What?" "That. I'm still alive." She locked the front door and turned the open sign to closed. Then she looked at Harrow, her voice ice. "They'll come now. Not tomorrow. Not next week. They'll come soon." By sunrise, Ava had already packed everything she owned into a backpack. She left the trailer park quietly, her landlord still asleep. She'd wiped down all surfaces, torched her burner phone, and burned what little paper trail she had left. No one would know she'd ever been there. She met Harrow at a remote dock, 10 miles south of Seabrook. He handed her a set of keys. 4 hours inland. Cabin in the woods. Private. I'll meet you there. What about your team? They're on standby? Only the ones I trust. I didn't even tell them your name. Good. Before she left, she paused. I need to. Know one thing, Harrow said. Why now? Why resurface? Ava looked out over the water, wind tugging at her hair. Because this time, they're not just killing operatives, she said. They're rewriting history. And if they finish, we'll be the monsters. The war crimes. The names cursed in textbooks. Harrow nodded solemnly. Then let's rewrite it ourselves. She started the engine and pulled away from the dock, disappearing into morning mist like the ghost she had always been. But this time, she was on the hunt. The cabin was buried deep in the woods, down a road no GPS could find, protected by natural camouflage and years of disuse. Its windows were boarded, roof patched with weather-worn shingles, and the interior thick with the scent of pine, dust, and long-forgotten secrets. Perfect. Ava stepped across the threshold like she belonged to it. She moved room to room silently, clearing each corner. The place had no electricity, no cell service, just what she wanted. She wouldn't be tracked. Here. She'd learned a long time ago. Comfort was the enemy of survival. Silence was safer than signals. By noon, she'd set up her gear. 2 burner phones, a jamming device, a shortwave radio, a laptop running off a car battery, and 2 duffel bags, one of weapons, the other full of files. She laid everything out methodically across a dust-covered table. Maps, names, photographs. 7 faces stared back at her. Her former team. All gone. And then there was his face. Spectre. Once a voice on the radio. Sometimes a shadow at a mission briefing. Never fully seen. He had trained them, led them, then betrayed them. A ghost behind a name. But Ava remembered him. The sharp jaw, the calculating eyes, the unnerving calm. And now he was killing off his own. One by one. Ava leaned back in the creaking chair, exhausted, but burning inside. She wasn't just hunting Spectre anymore. She was hunting her own history. The sound came at 3:14 a.m., soft, subtle, a crunch of gravel outside the cabin. Ava's eyes snapped open. She slid from the chair, barefoot, silent. She moved like a shadow across the wooden floor and peered through. A crack in the boarded window. Nothing. Then movement. She caught the glint of steel under moonlight. A figure moving low to the ground, military precise. Then another. And another. Her blood chilled. They had found her. She reached for the duffel bag, pulling out a silenced 9mm, already loaded. She clipped a comb to her ear and tapped it twice. No signal. Good. That meant they couldn't trace her. But it also meant no backup. No Harrow. She was alone. Just like before. She crouched near the back entrance and waited. Her breathing slowed. Her heartbeat quieted. Her world narrowed to angles, shadows, muscle memory. She wasn't Ava Morgan now. She was Ghost Viper again. The first intruder stepped through the front. Quiet, professional. Ava watched him pass. The kitchen then slipped behind him and struck. One blow to the neck, another to the ribs. He hit the ground before he could exhale. She dragged the body into a closet and reset. The second came through the side. Ava heard the glass crunch and timed her move perfectly. A slice across the leg, a knee to the face. She didn't hesitate, but the third was different. This one found her first. He came at her fast, tall, strong, trained. The fight was violent, brutal. She took a hit to the ribs, tasted blood. He pinned her against the wall, knife flashing. She twisted, grabbed his arm, used his momentum to flip him through a rotted cabinet. He tried to rise. She shot him in the shoulder, then the knee. He screamed. Ava crouched beside him, voice cold. "Who sent you?" He spat blood. "You already know." She did. "Spectre," she said. The man smiled bitterly. "He said you'd fight. Did he say I'd win?" He didn't answer. She didn't need him to. Ava knocked him unconscious, zip-tied his hands, and dumped him outside the cabin in the mud. She stood alone now, chest heaving, clothes torn, blood trickling from her temple. Her ribs ached. But she was alive, and something in her had awakened fully. The old instincts, the WARFIGHTER. Harrow arrived. He found the bodies, two unconscious, one dead and Ava sitting on the porch, bloody and silent, her weapon across her lap. He got out of the car slowly. "You all right?" She nodded once. "They sent a test. I passed." Harrow looked at the intruders. "You kept one breathing?" "For now." They moved the man inside. He was groggy, tied to a chair, silent at first, but when Ava showed him a photo of Spectre, something in his eyes twitched. "Where is he?" Harrow demanded. The man grinned through bloodied teeth. "You'll never find him." "He's not hiding." Ava leaned in. "Then he's baiting." The man's silence said everything. Harrow turned to her. "What does that mean?" "It means," Ava said, eyes hard, "he wants me to come to him." "Why?" "Because he's afraid of what I still know." She pulled out an old mission brief from Nuristan, heavily redacted, yet she had reconstructed the truth, piece by piece. Civilian casualties, intelligence manipulation, an illegal arms drop. Spectre had framed it as a counter-terror, but it had been a cleanup job for someone else entirely. And Ava had the proof on a drive hidden halfway across the country. "Spectre's not just covering his own tracks," she said. "He's protecting the people above him. The ones who gave the order." "Who?" Harrow asked. "General Dalton. Senator Krieg. Maybe more." Harrow swore. "That's national level. If we expose this, they'll kill us both before we hit send." She stood and wiped the blood from her face with the back of her sleeve. "I'm done hiding," she said. "From now on, I strike first." Harrow didn't argue. That night, Ava buried the dead man in a shallow grave behind the cabin. The forest was silent. Not even birds stirred. She stared at the mound of earth, her hands covered in dirt, heart heavy but resolved. "You started this," she whispered to the trees. "Now I'm finishing it." And with that, Ghost Viper disappeared into the night, heading toward her next destination. The next name on her list. Spectre had made one mistake. He'd let her live. Now she was coming. The cold wind carried whispers through the trees as Ava stood by the cabin's edge, watching the sunrise crack the horizon like a slow burning match. Her eyes were dry. Her mind, anything but. The fight had begun. Spectre had drawn first blood, but she wouldn't bleed quietly. She stepped inside and sealed the cabin doors. Her movements were automatic now, muscle memory guided by instinct. She powered up the shortwave radio and tapped into a signal buried so deep even military satellites wouldn't notice it. The encryption code was one she hadn't used in 5 years. One that belonged to the Vipers. Ghost Viper to Stray Dog. If you're out there, come home. Coordinates attached. Authorization, Black Echo. She released the mic and waited. Static, then silence. If he was still alive, he'd come. If not, she was truly the last. Ava spent the next 6 hours preparing the ground. She scouted the perimeter, planted counter-surveillance nodes in the tree line, and set remote charges at 3 fallback points. It wasn't paranoia. It was protocol. If Spectre came again, she'd welcome him properly. By late afternoon, a black motorcycle kicked up dust on the old road. She didn't flinch. She was already waiting in the tall grass, rifle aimed, finger light on the trigger. The rider stopped, removed his helmet, and smiled. Didn't think I'd hear that voice again, he said. Ava lowered the rifle. Took you long enough, Stray Dog. Logan Rains, former Viper demolitions expert. Technically Kier, really? Off-grid in South America, living off fake names and bar fights. No one ever expected Logan to survive a war. Yet somehow, he always did. He followed her into the cabin, scanning the interior. Place smells like gun oil and regret. Like old times, Ava replied. He looked over the setup, the files, the photos. This is bad. It's worse than you think. She briefed him quickly. Spectre's survival, the assassinations, the political names she'd uncovered. Logan listened without interrupting. When she finished, he just shook his head. Thought I'd buried this life. We all did, she said, but they didn't bury us. He met her gaze. So what now? We rebuild. The next day, Harrow returned, this time with a name. Serena Vale, he said, handing Ava a sealed folder. Codename, Kestrel. You knew her. Ava nodded slowly. Serena had been Ghost Viper's recon specialist, silent, smart, and dangerous, with a drone in the sky or a knife in the dark. Last Ava heard, Serena had disappeared after losing her brother to the same mission that shattered Ava's team. She's in Chicago, Harrow said, working as a freelance analyst, disconnected, but she'll come back for this. Logan whistled low. You're pulling the band back together? We're not a band, Ava replied. We're what they're afraid of. They drove overnight, taking back roads, switching vehicles, never staying on any digital grid. Every move was clean, rehearsed. Like they'd never stepped away from the field. By dawn, they were outside an apartment building in Southside Chicago. Harrow waited in the car while Ava approached alone. She didn't knock. She used the old signal. 3 taps on the side panel, a pause, then 2. A beat later, the door opened a crack. Serena's face was thinner, hair longer, eyes sharper. Should be dead, she said. I was, Ava replied. Now I'm back. And we need you. Serena didn't hesitate. She stepped aside and let her in. Back at the cabin 2 days later, the trio sat around a map, pinning target locations, facilities. Connected to Spectre, Shell Corporation's tech fronts. Serena had cracked 2 leads already. One warehouse outside D.C., another data center buried under a cybersecurity firm in Nevada. Both reeked of dirty money and erased footprints. But one name stood out, Obsidian Holdings. That's the shell Spectre used during Operation Black Veil, Serena said. It's resurfaced again, only now it's funding defense contractors. Ava stared at the file. So that's how he's hiding, in plain sight. Harrow paced the room. You hit them, the feds will come. This goes public, we all hang. Not if we control the leak, Serena said. We don't go loud, we go surgical, One up, one upload, one broadcast. Undeniable. Ava nodded. We take down Obsidian. Holdings. Leak the proof. Make Spectre run. And then? Logan asked. Then we find him. And finish it. That night, Ava stood alone outside, watching the stars. Harrow stepped beside her. You're rebuilding something dangerous. I'm rebuilding what they feared. He paused. You sure this is the right way? She looked at him. No, but it's the only one that makes sense. He studied her, quiet. You're not the same person from Nuristan. I never was, she said. Nuristan just woke her up. Inside, Logan assembled explosives with a grin. Serena pieced together surveillance feeds, marking routes, and dead zones. Harrow cleaned his rifle silently. The room buzzed with old energy, old ghosts. Ghost Viper wasn't dead. Dot had just been sleeping, not now. It was awake, Dot, and it was coming. The Nevada desert stretched endless under the moon, quiet and cruel. Beneath its sands lay secrets buried so deep, even the military didn't know the full truth. But Ava did. Obsidian Holdings' data facility stood disguised as a telecom hub modest. On the surface, a fortress below. Layers of guards. Retinal scans. Microwave motion sensors. It wasn't just protected, it was paranoid. Perfect, Ava thought. That meant they were hiding something worth dying for. Windows tight, Serena whispered through combs. You've got a 12-minute blind spot between the last patrol sweep and the satellite ping. Copy that, Ava said, crouched. Behind a dune. She turned to Logan and Harrow. They were suited in black tack gear, faces streaked with desert dust. Serena would stay in the van 2 miles away, jamming the sensors and keeping eyes from the sky. Once we're in, Ava said, we move like ghosts. Ghost Vipers, Logan muttered with a grin. God, I missed this. They moved. Scaling the outer fence took seconds. They darted past cameras, synchronized perfectly. Navigating blind spots, Serena fed them live. When a lone guard strolled too close, Harrow ghosted behind him, tapped his shoulder, and put him down with a quick chokehold. Inside, the elevator required dual-access retinal and a secure card. Logan produced a lens scanner they'd taken from a dead asset in Bolivia. For some face shopping, he whispered, pulling out the guard's eye. The lift descended silently. As it dropped past level 4, the air chilled literally. Refrigeration systems kicked on. Ava's fingers twitched near her sidearm. Something here wasn't normal. The doors slid open. A long corridor stretched before them. Sterile white, quiet. It smelled like antiseptic and metal. Not a data center, something else. At the far end. A vault. They advanced quickly. Logan hacked the outer lock. Harrow covered their rear. Ava counted steps, watched shadows. At the vault door, Logan froze. Problem? Ava asked. Yeah, he said slowly. This vault's not military. It's biotech. Ava's pulse quickened. Open it. The door hissed and slid open. Inside wasn't data. It was a lab. Rows of pods lined the walls, some empty, others holding what looked like sedated men and women, connected to IVs and neural nodes. Their eyes twitched under lids. Their arms had tattoos, unit symbols, some she recognized. Others were altered, burned away. They're Vipers, Logan breathed. The missing ones. The ones we thought died. No, Ava said quietly. They weren't killed. They were taken. Screens blinked across the walls, psych files, neural tests, identity erasure protocols. Ava moved to a main terminal. Serena's voice crackled in her earpiece. Ava, what do you see? The satellite feed's glitching. You're in some kind of data void, like the building's erasing itself in real time. Ava clicked open a file. Labeled Reconditioning Program Phase IV. She read silently. Her hands curled into fists. They were turning us into weapons, she whispered. Cloning memory, stripping identity, rebuilding us under command protocols. Mind control? Harrow asked. No. Worse. Obedience programming. Controlled soldiers' ghosts with no past, no future. Just targets. A beep echoed in the chamber. Then, the lights shut off. Red strobes flickered on. An alarm wailed. They know we're here, Logan said. Back exit now, Ava snapped. But as they turned, the screen behind them lit up this time with a live feed. Spectre. His face appeared. In crystal clarity, older now, scar along the jaw, still calm. Unshaken. Cold. Hello, Ava. He said. She froze. You were always the unpredictable one, he continued. The one variable I could never eliminate. Maybe because I'm not a machine like your new toys. She shot back. His smile didn't reach his eyes. You always misunderstood. I didn't want to kill the Vipers. I wanted to evolve them. And now, you've returned right on time. Ava stepped closer. What are you planning? Nothing, he said. Because it's already begun. Suddenly, one of the pods hissed open behind them. A man stepped out, taller than Logan, bald, eyes empty. Ava gasped. That's Reaper, Logan finished. He died in Kandahar. No, Ava whispered. He was taken. Reaper lunged. Ava rolled, drew her weapon, fired 2 shots, both hit. But the man didn't go down. Harrow dove in, trying to restrain him. It was like grappling with a machine. Logan tossed a flashbang. It detonated. Reaper staggered, but didn't fall. Run! Ava shouted. They bolted through the corridor. More doors were opening. More ghost soldiers were waking. The hallway pulsed red. Spectre's voice echoed over the coms. Calm as ever. You shouldn't have come here, Ava. You've seen too much. Ava gritted her teeth. You made me what I am. That was your first mistake? They reached the emergency exit and burst into the desert night. Serena screeched the van to a halt as they dove in. Reaper emerged behind them, then stopped, expressionless. As though awaiting a command, Ava stared at him as they sped off. That wasn't just a soldier. That was a message. Hours later, in a new hideout, Ava sat silently, hands trembling. They've built an army, she whispered. Soldiers without souls. And they're using us, our memories, our tactics, our identities. Harrow leaned on the wall. They're going to unleash them. On who? Logan said it first. Us, the ones who remember. Ava nodded slowly. We're the last living. Proof. Serena pulled up another screen, coordinates pinging from Eastern Europe. A hidden compound, Spectre's signature embedded in the code. Ava stood. He wants to erase the past, she said. Let's make sure we're the last ghosts. Standing. The snow crunched under Ava's boots as she moved through the Carpathian forest, the icy wind cutting across her face like razors. Hidden deep in the mountains of Eastern Europe, Spectre's final facility stood like a fortress from another. Time stone, steel, and silence. This was it, the origin of the Ghost Viper project, and its grave. Behind her, Logan loaded a fresh clip into his rifle, his breath rising in clouds. Serena adjusted her signal scrambler, fingers numb beneath thermal. Gloves. Harrow tightened the sling on his shotgun, gaze focused, jaw locked. Each of them knew the truth now. Spectre wasn't just building an army, he was building a new world. One where free will had no place. And Ava. She was the only one who'd ever walked away from it. Now she would walk back in. To end it. They breached the compound at 0300 hours, cutting through a frozen service tunnel that Serena had located through old blueprints. It brought them in under the mess hall, cold, dark, and quiet. Too quiet. Movement on thermal, Serena whispered. 4 guards. Coming left. Logan ducked low, planted a charge, and stepped back. Boom. The hallway filled with fire and thunder. The guards dropped before they could scream. They moved fast room by room, clearing corridors, hunting their way to the heart of the compound. Every wall was lined with Spectre's legacy training rooms, mind reconditioning chambers, dormitories with empty beds and 4 hooks. This place is a damn factory, Harrow muttered. No, Ava said, her voice ice. It's a tomb. They reached the core chamber, an underground vault sealed with layered biometric scans. Serena cracked the code in 3 minutes. Behind the door, the command center flickered to life, screens showing deployment grids, tactical dossiers, and chillingly familiar photos. Photos of them, of Ava, of Logan, of every ghost viper ever born. Standing before the screens, calm and waiting, was Spectre. He hadn't aged much, his face, marked only by a thin scar across his chin, his eyes just as cold and calculating as ever. Welcome back, Ava, he said softly. She raised her weapon. Don't speak my name. I gave you that name? No, she said. I took it back the day you left me to die. He studied her, then slowly lifted his hands, not in surrender, but in something worse, control. From the side door, a figure stepped out. Serena gasped. It was stray dog Logan. Or someone who looked exactly like him. What the hell? Logan hissed. The copy stepped forward. Same build, same face, same smirk. Spectre smiled. Project Requiem. Your memories, your skills cloned and replicated. Faster, stronger, more obedient. Logan stared, jaw tight. You cloned me. I improved you, Spectre said. The Vipers were only prototypes. The Requiems are the future. Another door opened. More clones walked in, 5 of them. 2 of Ava, 1 of Serena, 1 of Harrow. Each perfect, each soulless. Ava stepped forward. You think copies will beat us? They already have, Spectre said. You're not fighting for justice. You're fighting extinction. Ava didn't reply. She threw a grenade. The room exploded into chaos. Gunfire cracked. Harrow took down 1 clone with a shotgun blast. Serena tossed a flashbang and rolled into cover. Logan grappled his double each blow like punching a mirror. Ava moved like lightning, sweeping through 2 clones with knife and pistol. But then she saw her own clone, calm, focused, precise. The mirror of herself she had fought to bury. Copy lunged. Ava ducked, swept the legs, and fired point blank. The clone fell, but so did Serena. Hit in the side. Stay with me, Harrow yelled, dragging her behind cover. Ava turned to Spectre, still standing, untouched, arms behind his back. You could have been the future, he said, but you chose to stay broken. Ava walked toward him, slow and sure, blood dripping from her arm. I chose to stay human. She raised her gun, but Spectre had already drawn his. They fired at the same time. Both hit. Spectre staggered, fell to his knees. Ava dropped, clutching her side, but stayed up. Spectre coughed. You were always my masterpiece. She looked down at him. No, she said. I was your mistake. And then she pulled the trigger again. Hours later, the base burned behind them. Serena was stabilized. Logan limped, bloodied, but grinning. Harrow lit a cigarette with shaking hands. Ava stood alone on the snowy ridge, watching the flames consume the compound. They'll come for us, Logan said beside her. Let them, Ava replied. What now? He asked. She looked at the stars. We disappear again, until the world needs us. He nodded. The Vipers weren't just soldiers. They were ghosts, but they'd haunted the wrong man long enough. Now it was time to live. Epilogue. 1 year later, a small clinic in Mexico. A scarred woman in sunglasses teaches local kids self-defense. Her movements are sharp but calm. Her name is Ava, but they call her Doc. One day, a young soldier walks in. No past, no memories. Just a strange tattoo on his shoulder. A faded. Viper's Fang. Ava looks at him and sighs. Let's begin, she says, because the war wasn't over. It never really was. But the ghosts? They would never stop fighting.